A lot of people think life begins when you're born or conceived or whatever other answers they're coming up with these days. For some people, though, life actually begins the day a doctor tells them that if they don't make some serious changes in their lives, they're going to die. You see, my life began the morning of my 41st birthday in January of 2019. I stood staring in the mirror, looking back on my life after stepping on the scale and finding out I was over 400 pounds for the second time in my life. You know, my dad died when I was 17. So my choice was plain to see in front of me. Either I take charge of my health, make the necessary changes to live, or do nothing and die knowing that my daughter, being only 6 years old, would spend the majority of her life calling some other man daddy. Can't you see? There's no one coming to save me in this moment. It was me who had to become the hero in my story. You know, we live in a world that has a system in place to remove all accountability from every decision we ever make. Taking accountability and fixing the problem is painful. It's like a journey through the pit of hell while feeling the pain of every lost soul that resides there. But in the end, the journey becomes the foundation of your testimony. My fight has become my calling. So if you're out there struggling and you hear the sound of my voice, I'm telling you that your story is not over. As long as you have breath in your lungs, there is still time. But it's your fight, your story, your moment to stand up and do what heroes do. It's a long road ahead, and it sucks. And maybe you're thinking you can't do it. But I'm here to tell you that you have all the tools you need. You always have, and you always will, because you are enough. And most of all, you are worth it. Nobody is more capable than you. Yeah, Friday! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be listening. Thanks for making me part of your day. This is episode 243 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. Man, I got a great show planned for you today. But first, let's talk about a workshop that you need to be at every Saturday morning. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have not been to Coach Sophie F's workshop at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday mornings, man, are you missing out. There's a great group of people, not to mention a great coach leading it. If you're looking for a place to call home at Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Coach Sophie F., you gotta be there. And if you go, make sure to tell Coach Sophie that you're there because you heard about it on the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. Well, enough talk about that. Let's get into this! Journey update. So I am down this week. Weigh-in was July 26, 2025. I weighed in at 212.8 pounds. That would be the fifth loss in a row, and that was a loss of 1.4 pounds. Total lost since January of 2019 is 182.8 pounds. Just 0.2, and I would have been right there at my lowest again. Remember, I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that I was 183 pounds down for like 1 or 2 weeks, and I couldn't hold it. And I haven't been back since, but now I'm close. I'm so close. 0.2, man, would have been great to say I'm back to my lowest. Just to give you some perspective, I have not been this low we're talking about grade school here, right? You know, fifth, sixth grade. It was middle school that I was 253 pounds, right? So we're talking about fifth grade, fourth grade, whatever it was. That was the last time I was this weight that I am now. It's crazy to think about that, like, right? I mean, I really was an obese kid to say that this was my weight in grade school, right? It's pretty crazy to say it. But with that being said, I am 17.2 pounds away from the goal that I set on that one special day in January of 2019. I was sitting there with that clipboard and I was holding it in my hands and I'm filling it out. And all I kept saying to myself was, I want to lose 200 pounds and reevaluate my life. I want to lose 200 pounds and reevaluate my life. 17 pounds away. And then I get to reevaluate my life because we know it's not over. Losing 200 pounds, the journey's not over. It's just going to change. How it's going to change, we'll see. That's what the whole goal was. Lose 200 pounds, reevaluate my life. And I'm 17 pounds away from that. So the work stats for this week go from July 20th to July 26th, 2025. Total steps taken in that time frame, 81,533 steps. That is an average steps per day of 11,648 steps. Total miles walked in that time, 34.4 miles total. That is an average miles per day of 4.9 miles. Overall, not a bad week. It was a little less. I mean, the numbers are down a little bit essentially, but I can't complain either way. As long as I'm getting an average of 11,000 steps per day or stuff like that, I'm good. I don't really care. The numbers might be down. Like I want to say last week they were like 95,000 steps total, but it is what it is, and I'm willing to go with it. So I got a great story. All right, I got a great story. So I go for my walk today, right? And just to give you a little picture of the situation, it's 93 degrees. Humidity is all kinds of out of this world, right? And I'm walking and I'm sweating like I mean I look like I could be in a wet t-shirt contest. That's how much I'm sweating. And so as I'm walking, I basically feel like I'm roasting, right? That's how hot it is. And the air is just dead. So I'm going around and, you know, the way I walk, it's like one big circle, right? And there's a point where I'm as far away from my house as I'm going to get. And then the journey starts coming backwards toward the home, right? So I'm going and I get around, right? Now, just to give you a picture like of how really hot it is. So as I turn around, my journey back, I get very close to like bodies of water and stuff, but my journey away, it's more about, you know, like parking lots and that I'm going through and stuff like that. So once I'm on my way back, I'm walking close to water. And whenever I get close to the water, it is like really breezy. And so in the heat of the day, really breezy felt like somebody pointing a hairdryer at you. And that is what really breezy today felt like. It was like somebody pointing a hairdryer at you. And it was not pleasant whatsoever. Not pleasant whatsoever. Needless to say, I was very happy to walk in my house after and have the air conditioning be on, and it felt really good to get home. But as I'm making my way back, right? I'm walking down the sidewalk, and you know, I generally have my head looking at the floor in front of me, you know, as I'm walking like on a path or whatever. I always have my eyes on the ground of what's coming up, right? because I don't want to be that guy that trips and falls on my face and then everybody's laughing, kind of a thing. So now, as I'm going, all of a sudden, I was like, wait a minute. And I looked down and I found $20. And look, I got it right here. Look at that. So when I tell you guys, get out and do what you're supposed to do no matter what, look, you might be missing out. You might get rich. You might lose out on the $20 somebody dropped. And you know what? It was supposed to be meant to be found by you, but it ends up being found by somebody else because you skipped that day. So stop skipping your walk. Do what you need to do. Check off the boxes no matter what so you can find your $20. You know, when we were kids, right? We had this thing. And you ever tell a story and like halfway through you realize this story was a lot better in my head than it is as I'm telling it, right? So we used to have this rule. And when all of my friends, when we were all hanging out together, if you were telling a story and then like you halfway through, you realize this was just way better in my head than it actually is. I mean, I'm not saying it's like a made up story. I'm saying it's an actual story, just like I just told you now. But, it's just maybe it's the way you're delivering it. I don't know. But either way, the audience is not seeing the point of this story the way you thought it was good. They're not seeing it. So we used to have this rule that if you end every bad story with, and then I found $5, it makes every story good no matter what, right? So we would go through like our childhood, whatever. And whenever somebody's got a bad story, and then we're just looking at them, then they would go, oh, and then I found $5. And they were like, oh, yay, you found $5. Forget about it, right? And so we used to do that all the time. And even sometimes it used to be, they would interrupt because like it's obviously a bad story, and like my friends would look at me like, and then you found $5. And like, yeah, then I found $5. But this time I could say, and then I found $20, and it's real. Anyway, let me get into topic today. Oh man, how do you segue from that, right? But you know how I was thinking about something. You know how we are sitting in workshops on a regular basis, especially if you are a Weight Watchers member. Generally, the typical Weight Watchers member once a week is in a workshop at least once a week. And they are all hanging out there. And sometimes somebody's sharing and, doing whatever they need to do, saying something. And you have those moments where you're saying something and then somebody's like, well, you're not alone. That happened to me too. That happened to me too. And then everybody kind of finds comfort in the fact that they're not alone in something. That happens pretty often in workshops. I'll never understand the comfort that's found in that. Just because you're not the only one that went through something doesn't mean it's okay to go through it. You understand what I'm saying to you? Especially in the idea that when we talk about things that are self-inflicted, I'm always talking about how a lot of the barriers we face are self-inflicted. They have been placed there by us, right? And so many of the things we deal with are an object of our creation, right? And I firmly believe this. And it always mind boggles me when people find comfort in knowing they're not the only one and they're surrounded by people that have the same issue. Not because it's bad to have other people with the same problem. It's fine. To me, it's awkward. It's weird to find comfort in that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's weird that a bunch of people do the same thing. I'm saying it's weird to find comfort in the fact that a bunch of people are doing the same thing. Maybe it's just the way, because my father always brought me up that you're going to be um, whoever you hang out with, that's who you are, right? And you make sure you're always hanging out with people that are better off than you are. And this way, you're always going to be working hard to keep up with them, rather than if you hang out with people that are the same or less, you're not really going to ever get anywhere. So hang out with people that say whatever. If you want to be great in business, hang out with people that are even better in business so you can strive to be like them, kind of thing like that. That's the way his attitude was. And so when I see that people find comfort in finding out that they're not the only one going through something in a room, I'm just like, I don't understand how this brings you comfort, but that's just me. I'm not saying it's wrong to find comfort in that. I don't understand it. I don't understand how this could be a thing, right? Where it's like, oh, okay. So if 10 other people in the room are going through emotional eating, then it's okay to be an emotional eater. No, that doesn't make it okay. It's still something you have to deal with. The reason you're an emotional eater is because you chose food as a coping mechanism for X, Y, and Z. And food is not a coping mechanism. You have a bad relationship with food because it's a coping mechanism. Understand? And part of your journey then becomes, how do I create a new coping mechanism? Because this is one of the barriers hindering my journey, right? And finding other people with the same barrier is not going to help you get rid of yours. And making you feel comfortable having it is definitely not going to help you get rid of it. Going through the difficult task of doing what it takes to get rid of it is the only thing that's going to get rid of it, right? There's no world where you just live with emotional eating. Especially if you're aiming for what I talk about. When I talk about becoming the greatest version of yourself, this greatest version of yourself is not someone who still deals with emotional eating. It's not someone who still struggles in any way. They have learned the lessons needed, and food is just fuel in their life. They are no longer ruled by it. And that's the ultimate goal, right? That's the thing we're all trying to strive for. Right now, we have bad relationships with food, and that's the reason why you're here, I'm here, I'm making this podcast. It's about defeating that relationship and creating a new you. A you that is so different mentally, physically, spiritually from where you started, that food just doesn't have that hold on your life anymore. That's the goal. That's the real goal. And in the process of creating that, the greatest version of you, the scale goes down as a byproduct, not as the main goal. Because the greatest version of you is going to get that scale number and they're going to keep it no problem. They're not going to have any of the same, sometimes you go and you meet these people and they're at their goal weight and they have all of the same struggles still as they did on their first day. And it makes me question, well, where's the growth? If you have all of these same coping mechanism issues and all this bad relationship with food still exists, where's the learning, where's the learning experience that came along with this? What happened here? What went wrong? But I mean, that's not really my main topic, but I use that to come to this. As you guys know, I had talked about it the last few weeks ago or whatever it is. I have been, just like so many other things in life, I tried to make things, I have a certain method of making things consistent in my life. And so, and that method is a very laid out plan. I told you guys, rantingweightwatcher.com, you can download the PDF of the checklist challenge. It is a method of making anything consistent in your life. And it starts with the fundamentals of what brings success in living a healthy life, right? It starts there and you can literally take it anywhere you want. The skeleton of how to do this is in that download. So you can go to the rantingweightwatcher.com and you scroll down near the bottom And there's going to be a bunch of PDF documents I made available that you can download, print out, and there's no charge for it. Just download it. And one of them is called the Checklist Challenge. That is the map, the roadmap to consistency. And if you're lacking consistency and you want a way to how, not only to have a map on how to create it, but it creates a measurable method of succeeding. So I'm using that in two ways right now. I'm using my checklist challenge in two different ways right now. Number one, I'm trying to make fasting a regular part of my life because there are things that happen in fasting that are good for the immune system, and they prevent a lot of diseases and sickness and illness that is that society pretends is a regular thing and just a normal part of life. But simply fasting on a regular basis can prevent a lot of these sicknesses. And I'm heavy on doing what it takes to make yourself have a immensely strong immune system. I'm living proof that you can support the immune system and prevent illness. Okay. I had an autoimmune condition. I changed drastically the way that I eat, and I healed myself without medication. In the beginning, when I didn't know what I was doing, I had a bunch of doctors giving me steroids, all kinds of things for this autoimmune condition. They told me I'd be on medication for the rest of my life, all kinds of things. I took their medication when I didn't understand, right? But the one thing I said to myself was, they wanted to give me this one thing. It would be immunosuppressant drugs. Essentially, they want to shut down my immune system to stop the symptoms of my autoimmune condition, and then open me up to every other illness on the planet in the process. Because if you're shutting down my immune system, not only do I don't have protection against any other sickness, anything. So I outright refused immunosuppressant drugs. Outright refused. I changed drastically the way that I eat. I changed it to such an extreme method. There were a lot of people concerned with the way I changed it, but I did it anyway. And not only did it work, all of the wounds that were all over my skin. I mean, I had wounds on my legs. I had wounds on my arms. I had wounds in my scalp, everywhere. And every single one of them, I stand here today healed of every single one of them, simply by changing what I put in my mouth. And I'm not on any medication either. As a matter of fact, we are ending July. By the end of August, that will mark 4 years since I've had even a normal cold. So either you eat food like it's your medicine, or one day you'll eat medicine like it's your food, right? That I have proven that theory. Because I sit here and by I want to say it's August 2021, August 21 or 22, something like that. In 2021, August 21st, that was the last time I was sick. I have not been sick since, and I believe that what I've done to support my immune system, number one, and number two, what I have done to change drastically how I eat, those two things together, I don't think you can support the immune system and then continue to eat crap. I don't think that works. The two have to go together. You have to support what you're doing with how you're eating, right? And that's essentially what I did. And in the process of all this, it has made me more and more confident in the moves I make for myself. And I always try to tell and spread the word that there is another way, right? And it's not realistic. No matter how much society normalizes eating foods that have essentially an ingredient list that sound like a science experiment, that ingredients that if you ever owned them in your home, you could have the federal government arresting you for having these things in your home. For some reason, you can't own them in your home. It's illegal to own those ingredients, but essentially you're allowed to eat those ingredients, right? And this is where, and then we wonder why they say to us, oh, no, this is just normal, right? This is just normal. We never get to the root cause of anything. And that should be the concern. We only chase the symptoms created by the root cause. And in reality, in this world we live in right now, the root cause is the food we're eating. It's the drinks, it's the food, it's all of it. And I mean, and this is why I try to simplify things for you guys. And I try to make a message that is very simple to follow. But I kind of went off course here. I'm going to rein it back here. So I created that method of making things consistent in my life. And one of those things was fasting. And another of those things is reading the Bible. I know that I need to read the Bible more often. And I know that in the process of living a healthy life, I create this method of measuring consistent behavior. And so I used it to start to gauge success in consistently reading the Bible. And most of you know it's 8 weeks at a time and so like that, right? So in my reading, I've been reading different things. I literally just kind of open the Bible in random places and I will read for X amount of time. I say a prayer before, a prayer after, in the hope that, you know, to kind of thank God for the understanding of what I read, to bring some sort of remembrance, you know, like if there's comes a key point in the future where this story was going to help me in any way, then to bring it to my memory again, kind of a thing. It's kind of like that when I do it. Anyway, I was reading in Isaiah. And I never, you know, you could sit there, like I was saying before, you could sit in a workshop and find there's however many other people in a room that are going through the same thing you're going through. I never once ever thought in my life that I would read about someone in the Bible and say, essentially, we're the same person. Like I can relate. You see, Isaiah, his life changed with a vision that he had. He had a vision that, and he saw God on a throne, right? And in this vision, during this moment, he can see angels praising God all kind of around him as he sits on this throne. And he realizes in this moment how unrighteous he is as a man. And right away, he feels so condemned just being in the presence of God that he starts to repent and starts to, I am not worthy to be here, kind of thing like that. And in this vision, one of the angels that's praising God comes up to him with a coal. It's like a glowing coal from a fire, right? Think like that. And he puts it on his lips, and the fire or the burning that came from this coal on his lips didn't like hurt him. If anything, it took the pain away, right? And so it was like he was experiencing the fire that is the divine power of God. And the fire from this thing touching his lips essentially cleansed him of all of the things he thought made him unworthy to be here in this moment. And so he was essentially made into a new person in this moment. And the angel told him, live guilt-free because your sins have been atoned for, right? And so he not only did he hear the angel say that, but he felt it. He felt that his sins were atoned for, and he didn't feel ashamed anymore. But anyway, God starts to tell him about a situation where essentially the job would entail someone going to spread a harsh truth. And this harsh truth would be rejected essentially by the majority. Outright rejected. And the person would have to endure ridicule, stuff like that. And have to endure the fact that he's being ignored. He would have to, regardless, no matter what the reaction of the people is, he would have to do the deliver the message. Regardless of what would happen to him, regardless of how they received it, he would have to deliver the message. Or someone would have to deliver the message. And God asks, who can do this for me? And so it was Isaiah in this moment that says, I can do it. He volunteered himself. And as I was reading about it, I said to myself, man, he's a better man than me. Essentially, this is the connection I'm making. This podcast preaches a lot of truth. And a small fraction grasp the truth. And the overwhelming majority think I am extreme. If someone told me that my message ahead of time, my message would fall mostly on deaf ears, and they would outright reject because they're just not ready to hear it, whatever the case may be. If someone told me all of that up front before I even made episode number 1, I can't honestly believe that I would have done it. So that makes Isaiah better than me, because he knew all of that ahead of his mission, and he did it anyway. God asked for a chosen one, and he volunteered to be the chosen one. It's incredible, really, how society as a whole has done everything possible to take away the harsh accountability from anybody who is in the position. It's gotten so normalized that at this point it's become abnormal to call you out on the truth. And you're ashamed for it. Oh, you're just body shaming. Oh, you're a horrible person for doing this. Why, how can you say this to people? That's what it ends up becoming. You end up being condemned for telling the truth. The idea of why the overwhelming majority would help you to avoid the truth it comes from the money aspect of this. Because if you could make some progress, but not enough that you would end, and you would not learn enough that you would ever feel like you could move on from, essentially, you would create enough success to stay and be a paying customer. And then all of the enabling messaging that comes along with it would make sure you stay in a going around in circle state. And, you'd be on one half of the circle and everything would be going in the wrong direction. And then you'd make a decision and you'd be on the other half of the circle and everything would be going in the right direction. And you would continue that. And facing accountability for the choices you make would turn the circle into a straight line. And all of the sudden, real progress would be made, eventually getting you to all of your goals and eventually getting you to all the lessons you need to learn and eventually getting you to the point where your education is at a point where you are above and need to move forward with what you do. That the current system is great to get you to a certain point, but not to get you to the finish line. And because we live in a world where the scale number is the finish line, we have a point where people think they made it to the finish line, but none of the things that mentally created the problem has been dealt with. So you manufactured a scale result and you think you're healthy, but all of the behaviors that got you to need the program are still present. This is when I say you have people who have gotten to goal, they sound like it's their first day. Because in the process, they managed to create a scale result that they approve of. Whether that's the scale result they always wanted it to be, or it's a scale result from a doctor's note, none of that is really important. They got the scale result that they're comfortable with. But the lessons that, in order to master the behaviors necessary, were not learned. That's essentially my story. I had the gastric bypass surgery, and the results were created so quickly, there was no time to learn the lessons. In 1 year, I lost 183 pounds. And just to give you some perspective, in 6.5 years this time, I'm at 182.8. Right? So in 1 year, what could I learn? In 6.5, I learned a whole lot more. I learned so much in this part of my life that I mean, it's like all I want to do is make sure everybody learns it. And as I read more about the things Isaiah went through, I just kept feeling like I related over and over and over again. Because I sit at this microphone every week delivering a message that is designed, by design, is to make you uncomfortable. And I know in my head that if I was standing right in front of you and saying all of the things I'm saying, everything I said would be outright rejected. It would go through one ear and out the other. You wouldn't hear me. You would say, no, you're wrong. That's not me. You don't know me. That's the way it would go. But then there's this magical thing that happens with the podcast. The magical thing is that I preach the truth, no matter how harsh it is. And because I'm not talking to anyone, I'm talking to no one and everyone at the same time. But now, because of that magical moment where I'm sitting there and there's nobody I'm speaking to, there's nobody in this room but me. But I'm talking to everyone. And a magical thing is happening where someone listening is going, he's talking to me. And it's in that moment you're beginning the process of stepping forward into accountability. And the real journey of the mind, the body, and the spirit can officially begin. I mean, I sit here week after week, and I say the same things over and over and over again. And I try to simplify them over and over and over again. And I tell you guys, you have to be able to see a life without those barriers that you have. And it's only because you have those barriers because you're choosing to. At some point here, you started choosing them. And if sugar is a problem, if emotional eating is a problem, whatever it is, it's like if your friend was an alcoholic and said, I'm going to stop being an alcoholic, but I'm going to make sure I still have one drink a day. What would you say to that person? Clearly, we are all here for a reason. Clearly, you found my podcast for a reason. And we still believe that because the organization we give money to says everything's on the table, that it's really the truth. And in reality, not everybody's an alcoholic, right? Some people can drink alcohol and it doesn't affect them at all. Some people don't even desire it. And, you know, I'm one of those people. I rarely ever have an alcoholic drink. And when I first just started saying, no, I don't want to do, no, I don't want it. The amount of looks you get, because the other people in the room, nobody wants to drink alone, right? So it becomes everybody else's fault that they're drinking alone. And you're the abnormal one for not wanting to have a drink with them. And the same thing goes for food. There's people out there that sugar has no hold on their life whatsoever. No hold. And there's people that can't live without it. They've told themselves that they can't live without sugar. You should not tell those people that they don't have to live without sugar. For them, sugar is to them the same as alcohol is to an alcoholic. The same that cocaine is to a coke addict. The same as cigarettes are to someone addicted to cigarettes. It's the same thing. And the way food is designed nowadays, it might as well be an illegal drug on the market. We really need to see the world for what it is right now. It's a very enabling place to make sure you just go around in circles and accomplish nothing. The world is filled with distraction so that you could forget for 5 minutes here and there that you have all these issues and you can distract yourself long enough. You can go into a workshop and they could all make you all give yourself some grace and all these things, and you never actually face the demon or look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, face the accountability fairy and say, look, this is me. This is who I am. How do I fix it? What's my plan? They can talk you right out of that. They can make you feel comfortable again. You feel warm and fuzzy. Workshop over. You're on your way to keep doing it. There is no option. They just want you to feel comfortable about you having the problem. There's no options to you actually facing the reason why, the root cause. What causes you to look for food for something else other than fuel? Why is it okay to do that with food, but with everything else, there's AA programs and all kinds of all these things? Yet we have a society that would condemn anyone with my messaging and go above and beyond to make you feel comfortable right where you are. The one thing I could tell you is the message that comes from this microphone will never change. It's always going to point to truth and lies. Because if the truth is you have an unhealthy relationship and you are addicted to food, until you face the fact that you are addicted to food, nothing's going to change. You can make a scale result and you'll have to remake it again every 3 years for the rest of your life. Every 5 years, whatever it takes. If we don't ever face the demons within, if we don't ever face what caused us to turn to food in any given moment, if we don't ever face the fact that emotional eating is not a normal thing, just because 18 out of 20 people have it doesn't mean it's normal. The problem is, we live in a world that will enable everything, including making you believe that the sicknesses that you develop are genetic. This is out of your control. Your mother had diabetes. Your grandmother had diabetes. Your great-grandmother had diabetes. There's nothing genetic about diabetes, but there's plenty genetic about the behavior that creates it. Plenty of it. And 9 times out of 10, whatever they're telling you is genetic, they're not even touching the root cause. They're just looking for a way to make you live with it. Because the earlier they can prescribe a medication for a chronic illness in your life, the more profitable you are. There's the overwhelming majority of the people in this country that have diabetes have type 2 diabetes. And there is no reason to keep it except by choice. You are never told by a physician, come on, get up off your ass and change your life. No, you're saying, yeah, a healthy lifestyle will help, but here, take this medication. And the truth is, they'd rather have you on the medication because, look, wake up, people, wake up. If the politicians of this world ever fix the problems in this world, we wouldn't need politicians. If the doctors of this world, if the dentists of this world, if all of the people of authority in this world fixed whatever they have the authority to fix, we would not need them. If you knew how to live a life self-sufficiently, if you knew how to grow your own food and raise your own food, you would not need anyone except your own skills and your own abilities. You wouldn't need grocery stores. You wouldn't need anybody. Instead, they create a world dependent on everything. And they promote it. It's perfectly normal to be dependent. Perfectly normal to eat medication like it's food. Well, for your age group, well, this is hereditary. No one ever gets to the root cause. They just chase your symptoms your entire life. And the minute you get on the medication train, the likelihood that you get off is slim to none unless you start making some really, really hard choices in your life. But none of it's impossible. None of it's impossible. All of it is in your power to change your entire life, to finally take charge and say, you know what? Enough is enough. I am him who's going to break the chain. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.